Hi, I'm Jason Sage with Jagus LLC, and we're going to go through a CentOS Linux 64-bit installation from start to finish. Now, what I have done prior to starting this recording is I just finished creating a new virtual machine using Oracle's VM VirtualBox, VirtualBox. That's what it's called, VirtualBox from Oracle. And all I did is I clicked New. I told it I wanted to have, I think, a gig of memory, and I told it to make a fixed size hard drive that was 20 gigs, and that's what just got done completing. So we're going to go forward here and go through the steps. Now, what I do have is a save. I downloaded the CentOS 6 64-bit file that's got basically the file that the ISO, they call it. The ISO is the file extension. It's a big file, but it has basically the full install. I'm not using the network install. I'm using the full install. It actually came with 2 ISOs, or basically enough to make 2 DVDs. I'm just going to. It usually only needs the one for the install. I'm also going to do the minimal desktop install to just kind of speed things along, so we don't have to wait so long for files to copy. Because there is going to be part of that where we're going to have to wait for some stuff to get grinding here for it to copy. But we're now creating the virtual machine, and I'm going to hit Start, and here we go. We're off and running. And we'll just give that a second. Alright, it says welcome to the first run wizard. Next. What I want to do is pick where that ISO is, so I gotta go hunt for it. So let me see where it is. There it is. CentOS 6.2. That's the 386 version. I want to go with the 64-bit version. So I have the 6.1 64-bit version. I'm going to point it to the DVD ISO number 1, which is one of 2. This one, like I said, does come with 2. Alright, so I picked that. And now that's what it's going to use, as if it was in my physical computer, if I had the disk actually made and put it in the CD-ROM drive and I rebooted. That would be the equivalent of what I am doing right here. So it's basically saying I have my CD-ROM device populated with this ISO image. If correct, press finish. And it doesn't even have finish, it's got start. So here we go. We're going to hit start. And it starts to boot off of this virtual disk. And it says install or upgrade an existing system. That's what I want to do. I don't have a reason to do any of the other ones because I'm starting fresh. So I'm going to let this thing rip through. And here it goes. It's doing its thing. It's booting up. Basically, it's not really booting. It's booting Linux, but it's actually not the Linux that we're going to have when we're finished. It's booting up the required Linux that's going to be needed to just get us through this installation process. Okay, to begin testing the media before installation, press OK. I skip. I've got a digital file called an ISO file. I'm not too worried about testing it. And we're going to wait a minute. Found local installation media. That's wonderful. If not, I would go up to the top on the virtual machine and go to Devices, go to CD-ROM, and repoint it to the file if I made a mistake or something that made it lose track of where it was getting its installation data. Okay, let's see. It's running Anaconda. I didn't know Anacondas could run, did you? Alright, so hold on a second. We're getting there. We're starting to see something. Oh, we have a GUI starting up. Okay. So, now with this, we have a script that's basically going to be followed. It's going to walk us through some dialogues to get started. So, first thing we do is say, yep, we're here. We're going to hit next. Alright, I'm going with English because I can't speak Japanese. And we're going to go US English because I don't like tea, I like coffee. And basic storage devices, I'm going to use that. So I'm going to hit next again. Examining the storage devices. Now I'm going to get a choice on how I want to do this. First it says, hey, the data that you have might have data on it, or the disk drive, or whatever. I definitely don't have any data on it. We just created a blank one, so I'm going to say yes, discard any data. Now it's going to examine the devices. I'm going with the default host name. You might want to change this to whatever the host name is that you have if you're facing the internet. Generally speaking, it's not the end of the world if you start with your host name being localhost, and you still can have Apache, which is like a web server, and have domain names pointed to your IP address and still deal with them effectively. Okay, but we're just going to go forward through here. Think next. All right, I'm not in New York, but I'm in Connecticut, so this is Eastern time. That's great. It's wonderful. I'm going to hit next. This is perfect for me. If not, you would hit the pull down, pick your time zone, and which you can see there's a lot of them. Pick your time zone, and then be good to go. System clock uses UTC. That's universal time. If your system clock uses universal time, I don't know if it does. It's in the BIOS of your computer. I generally click yeah and then set my time to it anyway. It hasn't affected me too much. If I was in a business environment, I would check the BIOS and see what it was set to and try to make it match. Alright, root password. We're going to go with root, and it's going to complain at me. But that's okay. It's going to complain because it has to be 6 characters. Alright, we'll do root. And your password should be more secure than this, unless you're just using it for home development and you don't care. Use my weak password anyway. It called me weak, the nerve. Anyway, use anyway. Alright, I'm going to tell it right here. I have a couple different ways that I can set up the configuration for different partitions and stuff like that. This really matters when you have another existing Linux system, or you have like Windows or something, or how you want to try to work this out based on your partitions and stuff. And this is a topic a little bit more advanced for than that I'm willing to cover in this particular video. I don't think it would be appropriate, seeing how we're trying to do it just a quick install. Let's imagine we have, which we do, an empty drive so we can use all space. So here we go. We're going to use all space. I hit next. It's examining the storage devices. It's basically going to handle making a couple partitions for me. There's a boot partition. You have the actual data partition that's going to be used, and you also have a boot partition. So I'm sorry, swap boot and data, which is like where your operating system sits and everything. Okay, so here we go. Write changes to disk. That's where it's writing actually to the partition table, the information about those 3 partitions. And actually, with CentOS and with Red Hat and I believe Fedora, sometimes instead of using the traditional partition setups, they actually use this other system. It works out to be the same thing, but it can kind of be a pain. But you can force it to use traditional Linux partitions. If all this sounds like Greek to you, don't worry about it. Just go to defaults. Alright, formatting. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but this is one of those spots where we have to wait, but it's par for the course. I only went 20 gig purposely, so hopefully it wouldn't take too long. It's creating the swap now. The swap now it's creating. No, it's still. See, it's got this thing called volume group. I think basically the idea is that you can have multiple drives act as one drive. You can do multiple drives in Linux anyway, where you can actually have like drive 2 being mounted to drive 1 and connecting on some subdirectory. So when you go to that subdirectory, you're actually referencing a different drive. But when they do the volume thing, you can actually take 2 hard drives and make it seem like one contiguous set of directories, which is not my personal favorite because it does make backing up a bit tricky. If you have something big enough for the whole volume group, that's fine. But if you're trying to back up disks, you're not there anymore. You're dealing with a virtual system, so you have to back up the whole thing and understand that you are backing up multiple drives. But again, I'm touching on a topic that's not for today. I'm going to go with a minimal desktop here. This is basically the software, the bundle that it chooses to install when you're first installing. Like there's minimal, which is hardly anything. You got a basic server, you can end up with just console and no GUI at all. You can have a database server, which may or may not have the GUI. I'm not sure. You can have the web server one, which doesn't necessarily need a GUI. You could have virtual host, which I don't even know what the heck they mean by that. If they're talking about for the web server kind of virtual host, it's not much different than the web server, probably with a different configuration file, but I don't know. Software developed workstation actually installs quite a bit of software, which is fine because you might want to have different things. You might want to have the KDE Dolphin file browser as opposed to this one that comes with it called File Manager, and that would be me all day long. I definitely like the one called Dolphin better just because it's closer to that one I'm so familiar with from all my years of using Microsoft as well. But anyway, moving forward, plus I hate the fact that it keeps popping new windows every time you click a subdirectory. But anyway, that's me. So I'm going to hit minimal desktop. I'm going to hit next. All right. And from this point, this is probably the longest wait that we have actually. It's going to figure out what that bundle is, check dependencies, blah blah blah, and start moving some files over. Checking dependencies and packages. Selected for installation. This is the easy part. Once this part's across, that's when the real wait starts. So don't think like we're almost done, okay? I mean, I'm sorry. You have to hang in there. You know, if you want the info, you got to hang in there. Bear with me. You know, you got to. Well, we got to bear with this together. That's what we got to do. Yes. I could whistle and fill the time in. Dun, 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 dun. Now, what I am going to do is not only we're going to install this, okay, I want to actually, there's people who are power users. Even if they don't know everything about Linux, they're power users. They're smart enough to realize that, well, let me start that phrase a different way. In Linux, every Linux person will say you should never log in as root. You should never log in as root. Okay? I've been doing it for years. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, do as I say, not as I do. Okay? Well, I say heck with that. The previous version of CentOS 5, for example, would allow you to log in as root and use the GUI, the graphical user interface. Version 6 doesn't. Ubuntu doesn't. A lot of them now. These Linux, it's like they're pushing this agenda. I get that you don't think I should use root, but now you're going to force me to not use root? You know, you guys, what, are you starting to get like Microsoft here? Or what's the deal, man? You know, is this becoming like some sort of communist state in my Linux box? I thought this was all about freedom. All right, well, I'm going to free the bonds that bond you. I'm going to show you a trick someone shared with me, and I'm going to share with all of you, so that if you do understand the consequences of running as root and understand why it can be bad, and reasons why it's just you want to use a GUI as root for a little while because you're doing some heavy stuff and you're getting tired of those dialogues asking you every single move you make. Are you sure, man? Are you sure? Let me have your root password. Can I have your root password again? Let me have your root password again. After a while, you start getting really annoyed that you get asked a password, the same one, over and over, every time you have an idea and try to do something. Okay? Generally speaking, you don't want to log in as root. You want to install software when you're not root. So certain files that need to be root are kind of like made root, you know, have that root access, and files that don't need to be are not. If you install software as root, every file pretty much ends up being owned by root. So that's the consequence. I personally don't care. On a client's machine, I'll deal with the root dilemma. On my stuff, I run as root, and I don't take too kindly to someone telling me I can't, or software that prevents me from doing that. So I'm going to do what I can to get around it or find other software. Okay, we're returning. We just got done copying all the files, and it was asking me to click reboot. By the time I started the video, it started to reboot it on its own. So we're in the process of rebooting after installing all those files. The percentage bar hit 100%, gave me a little button. Evidently, if you don't click the button right away, it reboots for you. So that's where we're at. So let's hang in there while it reboots. This is going to probably, I don't recall entering my username yet. I think it's going to be part of our first steps. Because all I've entered a password for was the root user. So this little window that you see with the blue line is in fact a virtual machine. It's a console emulation of CentOS 6.1. And I hope that you can see the video. Okay. I'll try to do what I can to keep the quality and resolution of the video as best as I can for you. We're almost there. Appreciate your patience. Now, just so you know that the machine would run faster if I allocated more memory to it, and I right now currently have a busy machine. I have another virtual machine that's running that uses significantly more RAM than this one, and actually has virtual CPUs, which means it puts a demand on my computer as well. It's mostly idle, but I think that might explain. I think the lack of RAM that I've given this virtual machine probably explains the speed being as slow as it is. I think that's most of it. Don't worry about kdump if it says it failed to start. It looks like it failed. All that means is that you'll see another message that says not enough memory for kdump. Alright. Kdump, it makes it look like an error that's all terrible. Basically, if you allocate memory for the situation where your computer crashes, it'll use that memory to store what happened. That's it. I just reboot. I don't care. So my kdump I don't allocate memory for. I don't sit there and try to figure out what went wrong when my computer crashes. I reboot it. If it keeps doing it, I get another operating system. Or figure out my configuration first. Anyway, but then get another operating system. Okay, here we are. Welcome. A few more steps to take before your system is ready to use. The setup agent will now guide you through some basic configuration. Please click the forward button in the lower right corner to continue. Okay. Alright, I'm doing it. Alright. Here's the EULA. Do I agree? I don't know what it says, which is typical for most people, and I'm going to click yes, I agree anyway. Alright, username, Jason P. Sage. Full name, Jason P. Sage. Password, root. Don't do that. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, anyway, forward. The chosen password's too weak. Stop insulting me. Do you want to use it anyway? Yes, I do. Alright, I'm going to synchronize date and time over the network. There's a little click box there. I go with the default NTP servers, which basically are clocks out there somewhere on the internet. Hit forward, starting the NTP service, which is a little service that's going to make sure that the clock stays in synchronization for me. Insufficient memory to configure kdump. See, doesn't that look like a bad error? I warned you about this. It's just because I didn't allocate any. That's how it starts. It starts by saying, error! You know, it's not really a problem. And I can, if I wanted to, I don't know what I have to do, read all this first, whatever, everything's grayed out. Let's see what it's like. Grayed out. Whatever, we're not going to stay here anyway. I don't use this anyway. But somehow or another, you'd think this would allow you to enable it and then pick how much memory you wanted, like I told you about. But we're just going to go right by it because it's not letting me do anything here anyway. Finish. Kdump, not important. Okay. Pretty soon we should be in a GUI of some sort. Graphical user interface. We are almost done, people. I'm going to show you that trick about the being able to log into the graphical user interface as root, though. I use an editor, a text editor from the console called Nano. And it's not too hard to use. I'll try to step you through the basic steps just to edit that one file. You might be familiar with Vi, which is another one. But here we are. We're going to log. Right now I can't log in as root. See, if I do other and try to, I got to do something here because I'm not having enough control here. View, switch to full screen. Okay, let's try other. If I type in root, oh my gosh. Is it going to let me? I take back all the evil things I have said if it lets me. Never mind. This video is ending quicker. Haha. Alright. Do not show me this message again. Yes, I'm running as root. Close. Now you're root and I didn't have to show you that trick. Wow. It must have been version 6.0 that didn't let me do it, and I just thought they didn't change it back. Maybe someone complained. Alright, well that's great. Okay, you're now logged in. I'm logged in as root, in fact. You can log in with the username I had, which in my case was Jason P. Sage, with the password root, or I can log in as root into the GUI with my password as root. That's not what I expected. That's what happens. You know, I keep upgrading these versions and things change, and that changed. They went from not allowing it I mean, allowing it to not allowing it to now allowing it. Again, people must have complained because the 6.0, I know I wasn't able to do that. Okay, so we're good. We're logged in. This is how you install CentOS 6, 64-bit. This is CentOS 6.1. Maybe in 6.2 they don't allow you to do the password thing again. I don't know. But this is 6.1. So I'm Jason Sage, and have a good day. And let's see if I can get back out of this thing so I can show you our fancy logo as I go to sign off. Have a good day, everyone. Good luck with your CentOS 6.